Declan Doyle revealed his vision for the Baltimore Ravens offense, and it is refreshing.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Ravens. Welcome into the show. I'm your host, Kevin Oestreicher of Ravens Wire, here with you on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now the #1 sports podcast network. Appreciate everybody for being here on this Wednesday, making Locked On Ravens a part of your day. And thanks so much to all the everydayers, the first-time listeners. If you're somewhere in the middle, thank you as well. On today's show, Declan Doyle revealed his vision for the Baltimore Ravens offense. Talk about what he had to say over on the lounge. In the second part of the show, we'll continue talking about Declan Doyle, what he had to say, but about Lamar Jackson in particular. Then finally, we'll get into some general Ravens updates and notes in that final part of the show. So thanks again for being here. Today's episode of Locked On Ravens is brought to you by FanDuel. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Here with me today, it is former Baltimore Ravens wide receiver, Super Bowl champion, Qadry Ismail of Missile Training and MissileTraining.com, as well as the Locked On Ravens Squad show. And Q, coaching staff is set. Coordinators are in. We'll hear from those coordinators actually later today. They're speaking at about 11 a.m., so I'll be live talking about that after the fact on the channel in the show. But I'm just really pumped about how this last month plus has gone for the Ravens. It has brought a lot of confidence back for me in terms of the direction of this team.
Yeah, I think it's so refreshing. Now that the Super Bowl is over, all the teams have their coaches, all the teams have their coordinators, and it's a scenario now where it's about football. It's about, okay, what's the game plan look like? And I'm not talking about like a week game plan. I'm talking about what is your overall vision? How do you see yourself accomplishing said vision? How do you see yourself communicating that vision to your coaches? Then obviously the coaches to the players. What does the day-to-day look like when you talk about getting into the offseason? And then from the offseason into some of the different mini camps, because you're a new coach, you get a little extra. Ooh, that's fun. But that's where I think this means business. It's time to like sit down and hunker in. You and I have been doing this for so long that, we talk about the offseason and it's Eric DeCosta and it's, what are the moves are going to be made last year? We didn't know what was going to happen with Ronnie Stanley, for example. Sure enough, he gets in a position to sign an extension before he hits the market. Those conversations matter. It mattered even though it was in season, but it did have a ripple effect in the offseason as far as draft picks when Roquan Smith was traded from Chicago. All of those details a little bit different this year because unlike we kind of got into a comfort zone with John Harbaugh, there's an unknown with Jesse and his staff. So, yeah, we're going to obviously get into part of his staff and what Declan Doyle was talking about on this show tonight, but that's where it is exciting times if you're a Baltimore Ravens and if you're part of the flock.
Yeah, Anthony Weaver had his interview on Monday on the lounge. Declan Doyle was Tuesday. Maybe Anthony Levine will be tomorrow. That could be something that happens, but we shall see. Or maybe today. Who knows? I mean, we'll see. With this staff queue, I think the Anthony Weaver hire is really exciting to people, obviously with the former player aspect. He was in Baltimore as a coach, and that 2023 defense was awesome. But Declan Doyle brings a whole different type of story with him being very young, first-time play caller, in an offense that obviously is headlined by Lamar Jackson. So he went on the lounge with Garrett Downing and Clifton Brown. It was a great interview. If you haven't checked it out, be sure you go do so. And Declan talked a lot about his vision for this Baltimore Ravens offense, what he expects, what he wants. In the quote that a lot of people are talking about right now, and it was within a bigger question, but I want to just talk about the specific part of it first with you, Q. He said, quote, "We're going to hunt explosive plays. We're hunting plays that, 12-plus yard gains in the run game, 16-plus yard gains in the pass game, and everything we do is going to be built that way where we're trying to create explosive plays. Everything we do is pointed. It's calculated. It's designed to bend and stress the rules of the defense. It's a relentless game plan process." And so this is refreshing to me. I mean, obviously at times, Q, Ravens did lack those explosive plays last season on the offensive side of the ball, and that's for multiple different reasons. I think the Ravens, obviously with Lamar and Derrick Henry and Zay Flowers, like, you have the explosive talent there. I think it does come down to a couple of things in terms of just getting those plays open and working through that. But in terms of system and scheme, how do you think Declan Doyle can maybe take what he did in Chicago and bring that over to Baltimore to make that explosive play goal a reality?
So fortunate for us here on Locked On Ravens, I was able to see up close and personal two particular games. One was against the Philadelphia Eagles on that Friday, Black Friday football game special. And then the other was when they were in the divisional round playoff game against the Rams. When you talk about stressing a defense via the run game, it's all about leveraging your offensive line versus the defensive front. And if you can leverage your offensive line play, blocking scheme against the defensive front, then you're going to have an advantage. We have an opportunity to look back on a historic 2019 season when it was just every time Lamar Jackson and company got into the red zone. I know for me, KO, you can tell me I'm full of it and I don't know what you're talking about, but it felt like they scored running the ball down people's throats every single time they got into the red zone. I mean, I'll continue my thought, but is that somewhere in the ballpark?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The Ravens were, I mean, that was a historic team. And that's why, the game plan that they had, and it wasn't as bad as the Chiefs game when they just had 6 carries with the running backs, but they got down early against Tennessee in that divisional game, and they just seemed to abandon it in a different way there. But yeah, that was a historic rushing offense.
And so with that, here's the cool thing about it. When I'm watching the Bears go up against the Philadelphia Eagles, Philly was getting gashed, and there were creative runs. There was a lot of what we call duo blocking scheme. There was inside zone blocking scheme, and they did a little stretch run action. But then the play action off of it, that's where the 2019 team failed with the Ravens, but the 2025 team that I saw in Chicago in those two sample sizes, it was they had counter punches. So my point in saying all that and wrapping it up in a nice neat bow is that yes, Declan Doyle, Ben Johnson, Declan's offense, now Declan brings it in. There's going to be a collaborative effort by him and his staff to say, look, here's what we're going to put on the table. But that explosiveness in the run game, it pays dividends, and there is a bona fide counter punch action to when defenses try to stop the run, to have that play action and create what Declan is saying, those big chunk plays behind that front wall that is trying to stop a potent Ravens offense. That is where I am excited about what Declan and company has in store.
Yeah, I'm pumped for it. And yeah, the and company is also a big part of that too. That's something Jesse Minter hammered home, is like it's a collaborative effort and not just the coordinators, but these position coaches that he hired, like a Ledford on the O-line, or some of these other guys, Colbert in the wide receiver department. Like, you have a really good group working alongside Declan Doyle in this offense that I also am super pumped about. But when he was also talking about, again, just like what he wants, what his expectations and visions are for this offense, Q, another thing he said is, quote, non-negotiables are one. We're physical, and that starts up front, but that also is how we are outside. Our little guys have to be able to beat up their little guys, and that's how you measure a physicality of an offense. Are your receivers willing to go in there and block and be physical? The second thing is detail, that on every given play, giving our players exactly where their eyes need to start, what the expectation is of giving them a toolbox and how to problem solve. I'm going to take 0 snaps next year. I'm not going to walk on that field one time. They're the ones who have to solve problems. We have to be detailed in our teaching. And that to me at the end, Q, was a bar in my opinion, because how many times did we hear the Ravens players, even last season, be like, look, coaches aren't the ones going out there on the field and making the mistakes. It's the execution of the players. That was something that the defensive players hammered home when they were defending Zach Orr, something we heard many different times, and that's something we hear across the league. And Declan Doyle being like, yes, he's not going out there and making those mistakes he's not lining up against Jamar Chase and giving up a touchdown, or he's not fumbling the ball on a carry, but he has to, and his staff has to be detailed in his teaching. And the fact that they understand that, and they're saying, look, we want to give these guys the best tools possible to go out there and be prepared for everything that they can, and understanding that and being so detailed within that answer. Plus the part about the receivers too, which I thought was pretty cool. I mean, I love this answer.
Well, I think that's something that, every coordinator should strive for. I like that he publicly said it. I think part of what we're seeing with what happened last year with the Ravens, the off-schedule plays just kept creeping up. And because of the poor scheme of blocking and pass protection, you wind up having too many off-schedule plays. And so you're either punting the ball, or, the receiver on the backside is wide open, but Lamar's not able to get to him, or, you have a miracle happen and Lamar does Lamar type things. And now you have these big plays. So I think the off-schedule plays is where you want to kind of squash that. But you also know you have it. When you have rules of engagement, you can be more powerful in understanding how to attack the defense. Let me say that again. When you have the rules of engagement, okay, cool. Here's the concepts that we're going to look at. Here's the blocking scheme. But what if the defense does this? That's our weak point. Okay, here's the counterpunch to that. And so we know now everybody's on the same page. You rep it out in practice. You feel good about it. Lamar feels good about it. Declan feels good about it. In game, he's saying, hey, we've done it for so long. This is where the trust factor comes in. I might be 29, but I got a lot of years of experience. I'm going to call it in game. I think where many a coordinator, many a head coach, put John Harbaugh in that bucket as well. When you practice the heck out of something, and then all of a sudden in the game, you seize up and you don't call it in the game, and you wind up losing the game because you don't have the wherewithal to recognize, boy, this is the counterpunch to what they're doing. I cannot tell you how many coaches across the league, you will blame it on a player, but in reality, the coach was the one that was choking under pressure and didn't give his player an opportunity to make plays. When you have that lockstep understanding, okay, here's my coaching, here's how I'm going to do it, here's the execution of it all. I'm a player, I assimilated the understanding and what you're saying as a coach. Boom, here's how we're going to synergistically do it. Ooh, I'm in the huddle, and you called that play. All right, bet. Watch me go out there and execute it. Oh, this is what the defense is trying to do. I already got the answer to the question. Therefore, I'm about to be successful. That's how the good teams operate.
I'm super excited for it. And there was actually a lot that Declan Doyle did say about some of that stuff you mentioned there, Q. And I'm excited to talk about that with you coming up. We're going to be diving into what Declan had to say about some of that trust factor and the execution, as well as what he had to say about Lamar Jackson. So be sure to stay tuned. Plenty coming up on the show. First, the show is brought to you by TurboTax. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever. Just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax Full Service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress or guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online. They handle everything from W-2s to self-employed forms and work to get you every deduction. You can upload your documents, go about your day, and get updates right in the TurboTax app. It's a huge time saver and gives real peace of mind knowing an expert is handling it. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in. If a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year, just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today. Back here, Locked On Ravens, Kevin Oestreicher and Qadry Ismail still here with you on this Wednesday edition of the show. Thanks so much for being here. Making Locked On Ravens a part of your day and your first listen each and every single day. We have 5 days a week plus more daily Ravens coverage. And we now have 2 shows daily for you on Locked On Ravens. The regular show here Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. Eastern time. That's our 3-segment, 30 to 36 minutes. But we're also adding a 6 p.m. show, which we've done for the past couple of days already. It's going to be a mini show, a check-in show, 2 segments, about 10 to 16 minutes, just to get caught up with the news throughout the day. So super pumped to be doing that. And that's on top of everything else we offer. So the bonus episodes on the weekends on their headlines, the instant reactions, which we'll have after the press conference with Declan Doyle, Anthony Weaver, and Anthony Levine. We have those after pieces of big news and after every single Ravens game as well. We have watch-alongs during the season, during games. We have the Locked On Ravens Squad show with Q and I, along with Sam and Joku, chopping it up twice a week, Mondays and Wednesdays, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. So we'll have that tonight. And then also the Everyday Club is live on Locked On Ravens. You get exclusive access to one-on-one text conversations with me, ad-free episodes, Discord server, weekly Q&As, and a whole lot more. Links in the description, as well as on the Locked On website on the Locked On Ravens page. Q, Declan Doyle, we talked about in the first part of the show. His answer is really intriguing and something that I'm fired up about when it comes to his vision for this offense. But I wanted to talk about that thing that you mentioned in that little word called trust. And in reality, it actually is a big word because it means a lot in today's game. And it's meant a lot in sports in general for a very long time. And he talked a lot about the trust and mentioned Lamar in his answer, but it was more so like a big answer in terms of all the players on his offense now and on the team now. He said, quote, knowledge is power. If you can help a player, they don't care where you come from, how old you are. That's kind of talking about his experience, which we'll get to a little bit later in the show, like you mentioned. But he said, quote, trust is built off of communication and accountability to that communication, an open line of communication. That trust is going to be earned through time. It's not like I can call up Lamar and say, hey, I need you to trust me. We'll earn that over time. And it's going to be a two-way street. He's got to earn my trust. I have to earn his trust. And that goes for every player that we have. So again, I'm sure that some coordinators, Q, and I know Declan doesn't have the experience, but might go into a situation and be like, oh, I have all these accolades and I've won this award and these championships. And they might expect to come into a place and be like, well, yeah, everybody should trust me because this is who I am. Declan doesn't have that. It's like the no ego approach where it's like, look, and again, Declan hasn't called plays before, so it might be a little different than that situation, but I would much rather him have that as opposed to like, hey, I'm this young whiz kid type of guy. Like, look at me. I'm here at 29 years old, so I'm here for a reason. And yes, he is there for a reason, but there's also the humbleness of Declan Doyle that I think is important in understanding that it's a new situation, new players, and new relationships that he has to build. And that, again, is something, Q, that Jesse Minter talked a lot about.
Yeah, relationship. That's the big thing that we know is important. I mean, people say, well, in my generation, and well, we communicated this way, and this current generation, it's a whole different thing. And you better, regardless of the generation, regardless of the age gap or not, the art of communicating is making sure that to be understood, you must first understand. Let me say that again. To be understood, you must first understand. So if I feel like I got a system and it's all about, okay, guys, this is what my system is, and you're hammering it, then you go out there on the field and you guys aren't getting it. Well, you got to understand their point of view first. And I think that's where the relationship of understanding and why Jesse Minter, I believe, had so many guys co-sign his ascension into the Ravens head coaching position. It's because he had a level of, I understand where you're coming from first. Here's my side. Second. So to first understand, you must first be able to articulate what they are trying to get across. When we look at Declan's offense, when we look at him play calling and all the things and the install, absolutely there's going to be a level of trust that he's going to have to go through. There's a fire that you have to go through, a refiner's fire, if you will, and all the impurities are going to come to the top. And you're going to have to just slough them off. We're going to see a lot of it during this offseason. It's going to be fun for us to kind of sit back and figure it out. But I think the bigger picture is when we do see them kind of put it all together, okay, you guys got some really good stuff going on here. We could see where the chemistry has developed. I think that's going to be the cool part. But for right now, we're in the wait and see mode They're in the, hey, we're about to do this developmental role, and wait and see.
Yeah, it is. It is going to take time, and that's okay. I mean, that's what happens when you have a whole bunch of new coming into an organization. And I think it's good that a lot of these players will be together, have been together for at least a couple of years, and they can kind of learn this whole thing together, and they know each other's tendencies as players. But that's something again, like Jesse Minter has to figure out, Declan Doyle has to figure out, Anthony Weaver has to figure out. So there's just a step process to it. Now, when Doyle was talking a little bit more about Lamar Jackson and the dialogue that he has had with him so far, Declan said, quote, "It's been limited, but I would say this. I feel a guy that is hungry to learn, hungry to grow, very excited about the opportunity to work together as I'm excited to work with him. A guy that knows his ceiling still hasn't been reached yet. Every conversation has been really good thus far. I'm really excited to get him back here with the rest of our players and go to work." Now, there was also just talking about Lamar in general, Q. Declan Doyle also said, quote, "Lamar is certainly talented in a number of ways. When you watch the tape, there's not really any throws he can't make. He's very arm talented. I think there's a number of things that you could watch that I think he can get even better. I think there's a higher ceiling to his game. He's a very exciting player. You see what he can do off schedule. He can throw off platform. What he can do with his legs is really special. But I think any player, it takes being able to work with them hands-on, being able to watch him, figure out what he does best, and be able to shape and build this offense around what those things are." So we know that, look, this is an offense that Declan Doyle is not just going to take the entire Chicago offense, pick it up and bring it to Baltimore and say, this is what you're doing. It's obviously the adaptability of the process, and kind of like we've mentioned throughout the entire course of the show, getting to know these guys, understanding what their strengths and weaknesses are, how they can maximize the strengths and limit the weaknesses in this offense. And Q, people also I saw on social media, people with that first part were very worried about the fact that Declan and Lamar have not had a ton of communication, or at least limited, I guess is the word that Declan used. I personally don't think it's a huge deal. Like, I mean, I don't think it's like, oh, he's refusing to talk to Declan Doyle, and this is a bit. No, I just think that it's the offseason. It's been a couple of weeks. Like, Lamar's in Florida or wherever he is. Like, I don't think that's a big deal. But I do like the way that Declan is like, we're going to make this thing work around Lamar, not the other way around.
So this is a veteran quarterback of 8 years. He has seen what he's seen. I mean, this is my off season. Like, I gotta figure out this contract scenario for what the Ravens need to do in cap relief, and that's EDC and me and us talking and him coming back with a really good deal and all that. I know this is, well, Kevin Oestreicher knows how many coordinators this will be for Lamar. Qadry Ismail knows that it's just a lot. So it's not like his first rodeo is what I'm getting at. I know that Martin Morningwig ain't coming through that door, but at the same time, Todd Monken left the door. And so in comes Declan, and okay, great. So when it's time for me to figure it out, I'm going to figure it out. When it's time for us to grind, I'm going to grind. But I best believe this, I can't be burnt out before the season even begins. That's Lamar's approach. That's Lamar's approach.
Yeah, and Lamar, I think, is still, we know he trains during the offseason, know he takes everything very seriously and is about football. But like, again, it's almost the same conversation as like the voluntary OTAs. It's like it's voluntary, right? There's not a requirement that Lamar has to be studying the playbook once a day with Declan Doyle on the phone right now, right? I mean, again,
No.
it's going to naturally come over time. I am not worried about that. I think it's natural. It's what happens. And again, Declan seems very excited about it. I'm sure Lamar is excited about it too. And again, we got the reports from Mike Garafolo that Lamar was involved both in the head coach and the offensive coordinator situation. So it's not like Lamar wakes up one day and is like, whoa, who's this guy? It's like he was able to be a part of it.
Yes,
so
exactly.
that's another big thing too. I think Lamar is going to have a fun time in this Declan Doyle offense, and this Ravens offense is going to hopefully have a fun time scoring a lot of points this year. Coming up, we'll wrap up our Declan Doyle conversation, as well as talk about some Ravens updates a little bit too. So be sure to stay tuned. Plenty coming up on the show. First, the show is brought to you by FanDuel. Ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use a profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for two. That's right, flights, tickets, the whole experience. If you're already looking at the board and thinking about which team can make a deep run, this is the perfect time to lock it in. I love futures this time of year, whether it's picking a team to win the championship or grab a conference title. It adds that extra layer of excitement to every game down the stretch. And now not only can your pick cash, but it could also send you to the finals. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Locked on Ravens, Kevin Oestreicher, Qadry Ismail. We're still here with you on this midweek edition of the show. Thanks again for being here. Again, twice a day now on Locked on Ravens. Regular show, big one Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. Eastern time. The mini show, check-in show, whatever we're going to call it. I think it's check-in right now. We'll see. We're still working on a title. That's going to be the shorter show, which is 2 segments, 10 to 16 minutes. That's the 6 p.m. Eastern time. So 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. be here on Locked on Ravens. Q, one of the things that you talked about and mentioned a little earlier, and we've talked about it, is the experience, or I guess lack thereof, that Declan Doyle has. But really, he doesn't have a lack of experience. I mean, he's been around coaching for a while. He's just young. I mean, he has a ton of experience, but I think people look at, okay, he hasn't called plays before. That's concerning. What's that going to look like? And so Declan talked about this and said, like, he's been around coaching for a while and said, quote, through my experience, knowledge is power. If you can help a player, they really don't care where you've come from and don't care how old you are, which is that thing I mentioned earlier. But he also said, quote, I view it as an advantage. I found that it's allowed me, because I've grown up in the same world as some of these guys, to be able to connect with them maybe a little bit easier than it might be for somebody who's 20 years older than a player. I've never viewed it as a setback. It's actually something that I've found as a benefit to me. So based off of everything that we've talked about with Declan Doyle, yes, he is young, but he has a lot of experience. He has a good feel for the game. How much do you trust Declan Doyle's overall vision and what he brings to the table as it pertains to this Baltimore Ravens offense?
I mean, look no further than what they did when you look at the Bears. Like, they had a newbie system that had to grow up real quick, and it did. And they went on a roll and started beating teams and showing that, yeah, we're all that and then some. Caleb Williams is where he's at because of that system. So put them in a good position to succeed, off you go. I think this is a scenario where, yes, you're going to be in a good system to succeed. And so let's get it on. Again, it goes back to what I'm saying is we're in the offseason right now. So you best buckle up, EDC, and get us some offensive line so we can figure out how we're gonna make this thing like work, because we already got Dwayne Ledford. He's legit. Okay, we already got Kerry Colbert. Okay, he's legit. We got our passing game coordinator and Joe Lombardi. Okay, Declan. Okay, we got the pieces. What you gonna do to give us some pieces on the field?
Yeah, I'm excited for Declan. I'm excited for what he has to say today, along with Anthony Weaver and Anthony Levine. Again, we'll be live breaking that down after the fact on Locked on Ravens here. But Q, a couple of Ravens updates. Jeff Zrebeck put out an article. I talked about this on the mini check-in show. Maybe I call it Locked on Ravens PM. I think that maybe we'll go with that. We'll see. But there was a lot about Isaiah Likely in there that I thought was interesting. He ended up saying that, quote, Likely is extremely close with Lamar Jackson, so it's hard to completely rule out a Baltimore return. However, over the past 8 months, the Ravens made no progress in their efforts to extend Likely, and they've since paid Andrews. It'll be extremely hard for them to have 2 guys making top 8 tight end money with all their needs elsewhere. He also mentioned Darius Washington, saying that he already has his share of admirers in the organization before he busted his butt to return from an offseason Achilles tear in 7 months in play. So feels like maybe Washington could be back, but as we all are kind of predicting here, Q, this information from Jeff kind of solidifies that, yeah, once free agency hits, Isaiah Likely's probably not going to be in the building.
I mean, we just knew that that was the case. So this isn't flash news. Oh my God,
Yeah.
Isaiah Likely, what happened? We thought that he's not going to be back in the building. Not going to be back in the building. It's the economics of it all, and literally from a negotiation standpoint, we thought that negotiation was going to be, you know, favoring Isaiah, but I think because of the injury, maybe the Ravens miscalculated, undercut him, whatever. He balked at it, felt like, hey, I'm balking, but I also know that I'm balking for a reason. I can go out that door and there's going to be a market for me. Okay, well, go ahead out that door. There's a market for you. Oh, John Harbaugh is going to be here. Oh, no, John's not. Dang it. We signed Isaiah. We didn't sign Isaiah. We signed Mark Andrews. Oh, okay. Now here's where you're at. So you are living with a guy that literally probably would have been in New York, and you could have had a young guy, living large, growing in this new offense, which I think he would have, buddy, he would have loved. But so be it. I mean, this is the business side of football, and he left a good mark on his career here in Baltimore. He made plays, whether it been the Jacksonville game, whether it been the playoff game against Buffalo, whether it been just the different unfortunately he had the toe game against Kansas City, but still, like there was some good stuff that we saw from Isaiah Likely. He brought them back. I mean, we get the toe part of it all, but he brought them back in the game with his big play, making everybody miss and scoring into the end zone. There's just been so many plays that he's made over the course of his career, and good for him.
Yeah, nothing's official till it's official, but we will see how it all unfolds. Q, appreciate you for hopping on. Thanks so much. Before I get you out of here, quickly tell people where they can find you and what you're working on.
Yeah, man, it's all about missile training. Missile training, missiletraining.com, where you can talk about your human movement and sports performance training needs with me, Qadry Ismail. Missiletraining.com is where you can interact with me. At the same time, it doesn't matter the age, it doesn't matter the sport, it doesn't matter the individual or team training. We got all your needs right there at missiletraining.com. Shout me out, look me up. I will connect with you. At the same time, WJZ, Purple Pregame is where I am every single week during the season. Purple Playbook from time to time. I will be in and you will check me out on WJZ. But again, we're talking about Locked On Ravens. We're talking about the squad show. We're talking about Kevin Oestreicher and I each and every week here talking shop Ravens, here talking some football with you guys. At the same time, again, Sam and Joku, obviously Kevin Oestreicher, Kevin O. We all are coming in hot during the season, off season, twice a week. Check us out Monday and Wednesday. Got all your Raven needs.
Links will be in the description below. Be sure to check Q out. Q, I appreciate you. Thanks so much for hopping on. And thanking everybody who watched and listened to Locked On Ravens today. For the morning coming up, we will have our mini show as well as Locked On Ravens squad show. And we'll also be live after the press conference of Declan Doyle, Anthony Weaver, and Anthony Levine. So be sure to hit the like and subscribe button in video form. Follow along and subscribe in audio form. And I'll see you right back here soon on Locked On Ravens.